Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest is not just a recent IFBB Bikini Pro and fitness enthusiast, but she's also a surfer on the Olympic team for Greece who is working to achieve a qualification for the 2028 Surfing Olympics. She is a professor in computer science and math at the University of California, Santa Cruz, with her PhD from UC Berkeley in theoretical computer science. Welcome to the show, and Alexandra Kolla. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. I'm
Excited
happy
to
you're
be here.
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy you're here too. And I'm grateful for your time. And obviously, I'm excited to jump into everything. You have an extensive background and an amazing athletic drive in you. So before we jump into all of that, I like to ask if there's anything you do or maybe think about right before your heel hits the stage.
that question. I thought about
Uh-huh.
it. I don't do anything for myself, I guess, but when we're standing in line, I usually like chat with the girls, and it's almost like chatting like in a normal setting, like I would make friends at a coffee shop kind of thing. And then they call our class or whatever, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to put my heels on because I've been chatting all this time, kind of
That's
thing.
awesome.
So it's almost forgetting. I guess I make friends is what I do before my heel hits the
Yeah,
stage.
that's awesome. Have you maintained a lot of those friendships too, or keep in touch?
Yeah, actually, keep in touch for sure. And then like one of my friends, we didn't meet in line because we just competed at the same show together. We're like she's one of my best friends now. And
Oh,
we only met a year ago. Vanessa. And
that's
hi
so
Vanessa, if
cool.
you're listening.
I'm sure she is.
Yeah. Definitely maintaining those friendships. Yeah.
That's super awesome. I think that that's one of the most valuable things about this sport is because it's such a niche thing. It's very niche to bodybuild and it takes
Yeah.
up a lot of time, energy, effort. It's a consistent effort too. Not a lot of people do it, not a lot of people get it. So when you meet people who do, it's really nice to have those friendships in your life.
Yeah, it's been actually one of my favorite things. I mean, I love and hate a lot of things about it. So it's kind of like always, as with everything, I think, or most things in life, there's a lot to love and a lot to hate about it.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, friendships is definitely one of the things, the positives.
What are some of the things that maybe you don't love as much about it?
So there are a few things. But it's not necessarily that everyone that bodybuilds has those aspects. The one thing I hate is like the glam.
Oh
I
yeah.
am a surfer. I walk barefoot. I literally did not put foundation on my face for my wedding. When I did my makeup, I'm like, please do not paint my face.
Yeah.
So the makeup is just like, I cannot handle it. It's so bad for me. Which
Hmm.
is, a lot of people like getting this, but for me, it's just my worst nightmare, literally. I can't do this. Please get me out of here. So I guess the glam is one of the things I hate about it.
Hmm.
The other thing is that it depends like why you do it. And I feel like if you do it for the right reasons, there's nothing to hate. But I feel like some people, not necessarily in bikini, but in general, do it for the wrong reasons. And that becomes unhealthy and dangerous sometimes. So I have friends that, in either, divisions, maybe like all they want is to build as much muscle as possible. And then they're like on 10,000 drugs. And that becomes really detrimental for their health. And then like they realize it years after, but then there's nothing you can do
Hmm.
about it. Or other people do it just to look a certain way, and that can become unhealthy on its own. So these things are the things I don't like. Even though to fully like be honest, I started doing this 2 years ago, actually. I
Yeah.
knew nothing about bodybuilding 2 years before.
Yeah.
And I started doing this because like, oh, they look cool. Maybe
Yeah.
let me do, but it wasn't more like a focus, it was more, oh, that's cool, let's try. But I stayed in it because actually my favorite thing about it, I know we talked about what I hate, which I already said, but my favorite thing about it is that it taught me that failure is the beginning and not the end.
Mm.
And that I
Wow.
really appreciate. Because for me, like, you don't win whatever, you don't get your pro card, or, someone is better than you in whatever the judges think is better. And you could take it very personally, be like, oh, my structure sucks, my body sucks, like I suck, whatever. But I feel like, and I felt like this the first time, in my first national show, I think I came fourth or something, I forget. And I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? What, all of that stuff that everybody asks. But then throughout thinking about it and saying, okay, what can I make better? What can I work on? And how to do that? It taught me that, yeah, failure is actually a blessing in some sense. Because if you always succeed, you never get better. And I apply this to my surfing competition because with surfing, I'm so hard on myself. Like I would go out and fail on what I try to do. And I'm like, I'm going to quit. I'm not good enough to make the Olympics. Like I'm so much harder on myself because surfing is my life basically than bodybuilding. And I try to apply this idea that, okay, I failed, but what did I learn today? And
Mhm.
since I started doing that, everything has gotten better. Like I'm more patient with myself. I train better, like even if I have a bad week, I know I'm equipped now to handle it. Whereas before it wasn't the case.
Wow. So bodybuilding has really supported you in, I guess, resilience building.
Yes. I can do hard things and I can get better. And I see bodybuilding, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier to progress than surfing, for example, or
Mm.
life in general. Like I feel like life's hard, like things
Yeah.
happen. And bodybuilding is more measurable. You're like, okay, what can I do today to get better? I can meet my macros, I can get to the gym. So like it's very measurable. And you can see that small successes that may not be visible at the end of the day, they're visible in 6 months. So once you've gone through this process, you know that, okay, if I do the things in 6 months, I will be better because I've seen it. So then you take this idea and apply it to surfing in particular, because it could take 6 months where you're failing at something at surfing and see nothing. And you just
Hmm.
have to believe. So you can take this and be like, in 6 months, I'll come back to it and reassess if I got better. Or in life, like I have it, one of my main goals is, I know that sounds strange, is to be a better person.
Yeah, I love that.
But by working on myself, so I can be a better wife, all of that stuff, independent of what others do. And
Mm.
this takes a lot of work because you have to actually be, all right, I
Yeah.
was not right, like I was doing this thing wrong. My husband or my friend or my family was right, and what can I do that depends only on me to get better? And that also takes time. So if you're applying the same principle for me, I feel like success comes and without stress, like without anxiety, if that makes sense, because you believe.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. I really like how you said you want to be a better person independent of what others do. And what that makes me think of is like kindness, even in the face of challenges, like in a relationship, arguing or having
Yeah,
difficulties, but still showing love, still showing respect, or in a challenging time where a friend really needs you, being there for them, even if it means you need to give up something that is important to
yeah,
you. So I think that's a really great point. And you also said bodybuilding has supported you in exemplifying getting better in these other areas, but bodybuilding is more of a calculated way of
hmm,
getting better because you do have a lot more things, I guess, within your control, but also you cannot improve or progress unless you have failures. And it reminds me of
yeah,
this. One of my favorite quotes is the fool precedes the master. And
hmm,
that's by Jordan Peterson. He has a speech well, not a speech, but there's like a little clip you guys can listen to if you want to look it up called that. But it's great. And it's a great reminder that if you want to master something, you have to first be willing to fail and be
Yeah.
foolish at
This is
it.
my number one, like failure. I love failure. And I don't want to, say it like, don't take it the wrong way. I love
Of
success,
course, yes.
but I love failure. Now, every time, like, and I think that's due to bodybuilding. Every time I fail at anything, like I have an argument with my husband, I was like, oh, I did not handle this right. Or I try something new at surfing and I could not land an air or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, this is good. I'm happy.
Mhm.
And I never felt like this before bodybuilding, which for me, it's like the number one, I would never quit bodybuilding because of that.
Absolutely. Even like when you consider some of the cons that you listed, a lot of that is more so like choices that someone can make in the sport or maybe perceptions as well. I mean, obviously we can't choose whether or not we put makeup on stage, which
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
with you on that, girl.
Yeah.
I don't ever wear it. And so then on stage I'm like, oh, I feel
Yeah.
like I just don't look like myself. So I can understand that. And then it's a
I
whole
feel
pain
like
getting
my
it off.
face has like a paste, and I'm like,
Exactly.
I feel so hot. Like, what is this?
Exactly.
I can't do this.
That say it makes me a little bit itchy. Like I remember my
Yeah.
first show, I like accidentally just started scratching my face and I was like, oh no, I ruined it. So I had to go get it done literally right before I went back out there. So I get it, but those pros really outweigh it. And I always think about how like the bodybuilding show itself, like to compete in a competition, it's what maybe, I mean, we've seen people do it multiple times a year, of course. But for a lot of competitors, they only step on stage maybe once or twice in a year. The thing that counts is that every single day commitment. And you are navigating not just bodybuilding, but also surfing and family and your job. So let's start with how you navigate just two different competitive sports at once, because I imagine there's got to be a concern for fuel, recovery,
Yes.
how you
Yeah.
manage your
Yeah.
energy, your time. So walk us through that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, I want to preface this by saying a huge thank you to my coach, Jamie de Bernard from Fit Body Fusion. She, I mean, I don't even have words to say. Like, I've had coaches that were all great. Like, I have from every coach, I had like high profile coaches that I
Mhm.
learned something from each of one of them, and they were all great. However, I feel like not every coaching approach works for every person. And nobody until Jamie was able to truly take into account the fact that I do another competitive sport. So, for example, I'm going to start with the positives of this prep for Universe, where I got my pro card,
Yep.
because I've done Universe last year and so on. And I'll talk about this. I think a week and a half before Universe, I had to fly to Switzerland for 5 days to train with my surf coach in the wave pool, which is like, 3 to 6 hours training a day, like I mean, going to the gym is nothing compared to surf training in
I
terms of
bet.
energy expenditure. Like my watch says 2000 calories active burn a day when I surf, train, and
Wow.
like 30K steps or something, it's crazy. And I was like a week and a half out from my national show, flying to Switzerland, jet lag, all of that training every day, learning a new thing, which requires a lot of power. It's like airs, where you
Mm,
get off the wave and try to land it. So
uh-huh.
it's not like a casual, it's like a lot of power.
Okay.
And I was, low-ish calories, of course, had to go to the gym, all of that stuff. But the thing that we did with Jamie from the beginning of this prep, which nobody else has managed to do this for me, because probably nobody else has a pro surf, like in their roster. And it's just like, it doesn't work for everybody, is that we had zero cardio this whole prep. So unless like the surf was flat for a week and then just like walk 30 minutes on incline treadmill, But literally this whole prep, I had zero cardio. And she's like, please do not move more. You you need to not move, just like do your surfing and just don't do anything else. So that was really like, she focused on trying to make me successful in what I cared most about. And my
Mm-hmm.
calories never got super low. Whereas in other preps, I was 800 calories, 1,000 calories. This prep, I think my lowest was 14 for 2 weeks. And then it was like 16, 17, which is
Yeah.
like normal food for most people, but for my activity level. And the other
That's
thing is
not
like,
very high for your activity level.
no, but
Right.
it's like
Like
for
in
prep, it's
comparison
like
to eight. Yeah, exactly.
prep is like super high. I'm like 100
Yeah.
pounds on stage, like it's not that I'm a big person, I'm 5'3".
Yeah.
So it for my body is like normal food for everyday people. Um,
Exactly.
but the thing like she did that I did not even I was almost nervous because like my weight wouldn't be dropping. And it's like, yeah, we need to lose some body fat, but calories are the same. So she never lowered my calories unless absolutely necessary. Like I think 2 weeks out or something.
Mm-hmm.
So my labs were great. Like my
Good.
doctor, my doctor had to pull me out of prep last year because I had no hormones left, my thyroid, I had a lot of
Mhm.
health issues. I was also staying lean for very long because I did shows with a lot of time in between, so that didn't help.
Mhm.
And I think my body didn't handle that staying like this for so long very well. But this time, my labs were almost like off-season labs,
Wow,
like
that's
three
great.
weeks out. And I was nervous that I'm not going to be ready because I'm like, okay, I'm not starving. Like I had full energy to do it. Like I didn't feel anything got compromised. But I feel like for a coach to do that is very difficult because to see someone that needs to lose 4 pounds of body fat in 3 weeks and not lower their calories, like I feel like that takes a lot of guts.
Hmm.
But I feel like Jamie prioritized what she thought was important to me by being confident that she can get me ready, and she did. And I don't know how she did it. Like I honestly, like if I was a coach, I would follow the approaches of my other coaches that I have no issue. As I said, they were all great, but I feel the approach was more traditional that would apply to 99.9% of the athletes that don't do another competitive sport. And I would freak out as a coach. I'd be like, this person needs to lose weight. Like we
Yeah.
need to lower their calorie. I would not be able to do what Jamie did.
Yeah.
So just to answer your question, with this prep, it has not been hard for me. I mean, of course, there are days that I would rather have more energy, but it hasn't been hard for me to do both. However, other times, like I had to compete in the World Championship 3 weeks out last year, and that was a little difficult
I bet.
because I had to do an hour cardio on top of my 6 hours to 8 hours a day of surfing.
Whoa.
And that was a little taxing for me. I think that's part of the reason why, my body stopped working. And I didn't do very well in the World Championship last year. I did much better this year. I guess we're 2 spots from qualifying for the Olympics. So
That's so awesome.
yeah, so it's hard. And, there are days that is very hard. I'm not gonna lie. There are days that I go out surfing and I'm like, I cannot do this. Like I cannot move and my surfing is compromised. But that's, I think, like in off season, that should not be a problem. So it's just like sometimes I have to make a decision and be like, okay, these 4 weeks surfing is gonna take second, but the rest of the year, surfing is gonna be first.
Yeah. Well, my head's going a few different directions. So let me first ask, what makes it worthwhile to sometimes put surfing second when you do have that goal?
I feel like I don't feel like 4 weeks or whatever it is. And I don't put it second in the sense I still go surfing every day and I still do my best, but I realize my best is 80% and not 100. So I
Mm.
don't feel like that takes a lot out of, surfing is like a long game process. It's like, okay, if for 4 weeks a year you don't go to the gym, your bodybuilding journey won't be compromised. And it's the same. If for 4 weeks out of the year surfing is second, like nothing will basically change, I feel like. Like it's not that I do it all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of athletes actually feel like if they're not solely focused on competing, then they won't be successful. You're clearly proof that this is not the case in both sports that you
Yeah.
compete in.
And now, like, for
So,
example, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
in like actually tomorrow, I leave for 2 months and I'm going to be living on a boat in Indonesia with like no reception, no Wi-Fi, no gym, like
Wow.
no food prep, like nothing, which I do often, like I do the
Yeah.
surfing. It's a surf trip. So we live at the boat by the wave and just surf all day, like, and there's nothing else. Like we don't get off the boat. So I'm completely fine not going to the gym for like a month, like nothing is gonna change in the long scheme of things. Like people get
Yeah,
breast
exactly.
augmentation and they don't go to the gym for 6 months. Nothing changes, they still get back. I haven't gotten it because I don't have time. I would love to, but I literally don't have six
Yeah.
weeks that I cannot. So I'm like, I guess it's never gonna happen. But people do stuff all the time. They get
That's
sick,
right.
and it's fine. Like nobody loses anything in this amount of time.
Yeah, that's such a great reminder too, because I think we can get so caught up in the what if I lose all this progress that we
Yeah.
forget that sometimes you really need to prioritize recovery or this goal or this area of life, or if you're sick, get better and it'll actually make you better long term.
Yeah.
And with that sole focus on one thing, I think it can actually work against athletes a lot more than for
Yeah.
them because that hyperfixation, even though the world tells us, oh, in order to be successful, you have to be 110% in this. But I think that there is an important note here, which is you still need to prioritize other areas of life that matter to you in order to have longevity in this sport.
Yeah.
So, how do you personally feel like working towards multiple goals at once actually benefits you as an athlete?
I mean, for me personally, I try to, again, I started bodybuilding, as I said, for fun almost.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I really questioned if I should be doing this. Like, I almost quit many times because I'm like, this is not for me. Like, what am I doing? I love being outdoors. I don't want to go to the gym, like, I mean, my average steps are 20K a day because I'm outdoors all day without
Yeah.
trying, like not without cardio. So I'm like, why do I have to spend this hour or two a day indoors where I live in sunny California? Like I can just be
Right.
surfing, or whatever. So I had this fight with myself for the longest time until like what I told you before ties in. Until I realized the benefits emotionally and mentally. Because, competitive sports are, yes, they're physical, but they're also mental. And if your mind is not at the right place, you don't succeed. As
Mhm.
similarly, if your body's not at the right place, you don't succeed. But I think it's competition in surf is both. Like you have to be accepting failure, you have to be navigating, everything. So once I realized what I have done mentally from bodybuilding, I felt like it's an accessory for my surfing rather than trying to it's almost like complementing it. So it's kind of like cross training for me
Mm.
for surfing. It keeps my body strong, it keeps my nutrition healthy for sport, and it keeps my mind at the right place to succeed. So I don't feel like navigating two sports at once, other than, peak week or something and the travel shows, which, as I said, is not important, significant amount of time. I see it as cross training, and all athletes do cross training. So yeah, for me, it's just one thing. It's like I do sports, I'm an athlete, and this is bodybuilding is how I cross train for surfing at this stage.
I love that. I really think that perspective is awesome, and we can all learn from that too. I am curious, you said earlier, Jamie really met you where you were at and provided you with coaching that you hadn't previously received that was really helpful to your process and obviously led to your success in going pro. You had gone on that surf camp, which also now my brain's kind of firing off another thought. Do you know Natalie Matthews, fit vegan chef on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and she works with Jamie too, last time I checked. But anyway, she was a professional surfer.
Oh,
She's the only other bikini pro now that
I'll have
I
to talk to
know.
her. I may have
Yeah.
talked to her actually. I don't know.
You
Yeah.
probably, she's so sweet. So you probably did. If not, you totally should connect with her. But anyway, I was gonna ask you, when you were peaking for nationals, but you're in a completely different country, what did that look like to travel back home and get adjusted and get ready to step on stage?
Yeah, so for me, it's a little different than other people, I think, because I travel so much. Like in March, I was in Sri Lanka for 5 days. So, I would fly to the other end of the world and come back home 5 to 10 times a year. So
Okay.
for me, it's not that, it's almost normal. It's like whatever is normal for it's, and I go to Greece to visit my family twice a year. I go to a surf trip in Indonesia, Maldives, whatever. Then I go for trainings with my coach to the other end of the world. So it's like a lot of travel. So I'm almost like it's completely normal for me to do that. I don't, yeah, okay, jet lag affects me and I don't sleep very well, but I pack all my food. Like I pack all my food, I freeze it, it's in my bag. I get
Mm-hmm.
an Airbnb with a kitchen. And, just, yes, you have to compromise. Like, I didn't go out to dinner with, my coach and the other people in the camp, but I spent all the other day with them and took my meals with me. But somehow, like, yeah, it's not very hard for me to do that anymore because I do it so much.
That makes sense. Actually, now that I think about it, when I recently went on a trip with my family and the travel for me didn't feel as intense because I have been traveling so much that even though, yes, it was a longer flight, I almost felt conditioned for it, you
Yeah.
know?
It's the same with everything. If you never go to the gym, first time at the gym seems hard. If you go to the
Yeah.
gym every day, it's just another day at the gym. So it's the same with for me and long travel. It's just like another day in life.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about like just your schedule, your life, and then we'll kind of talk about family too. But you're also a professor. So how do you work your schedule to support classes and training and traveling as much as you do?
Yeah, so I'm like super lucky. So I think my journey is a bit backwards than most people, in the sense that when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a mathematician. Other people want to be, I don't know, something else that's more fun sounding, but I literally just wanted to be a mathematician.
And
So
you're here doing it.
yeah, and I'm here doing, so I achieved my dream when I was very young, like this was my dream to be a successful mathematician and nothing else.
So cool.
Anyway, so when I was very young, I worked really hard towards math, but I didn't see it as work. It was kind of like we do bodybuilding. We work hard, but it's like we want to do this or surfing. So for me, math was it at the time. And so I got my PhD early, I got like jobs after. I got a professorship in my 20s. I was like super, like I was done, in my 20s
Yeah.
in terms of career. And suddenly, like, I had discovered surfing already, but I wasn't like full on surfing. And slowly, the surfing took over my math life in some sense. Well, I had some like really weird stuff happen from my boss, like due to discrimination. There's a lot of discrimination in my field.
Really?
Um,
Like
and like
what?
they stole my idea and they published without me, and that hurt me in a lot of ways. So a lot of things happened at the time. But in any case, I was already successful, had a professorship job. And one day I literally like woke up and I was like, I'm gonna quit and become a surf bum.
Oh, wow.
So I quit my career. I sold everything, my car, my bed, my furniture, my clothes. I kept one backpack and one surfboard and traveled around the world by myself, like just because I wanted to be a surf bum.
Yeah.
And honestly, like this is at the time was the hardest thing I've done in my life.
Yeah.
Because, doing the math for getting the PhD was hard, but it was like I was on the path,
Yeah.
like I was destined to do that. So it's kind of like bodybuilding. It's hard, but it's not, it will be harder to quit bodybuilding if you want to bodybuild than to actually do it.
Mhm.
So for me, it was very hard to quit what I was destined to do and what I, from like 5 years old, wanted to do, to pursue something that was new,
Yeah.
but something inside me told me this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Were you already surfing at the
Yeah,
time?
I was already surfing, but I never had time, because I was working a lot. So I did surf here and there, but I wasn't like focusing on surfing.
Okay.
So yeah, I quit everything, never intended to come back, and just traveled around the world, like everywhere, like, Asia, Europe, South America, Central America, Indonesia, Fiji. I went like everywhere I wanted with no plan, like just picked a country. I was like, oh, the waves are going to be good there at that time of year. Went there, then booked another ticket when I wanted. And that was like the best thing I've ever done.
Wow.
So
What
that changed me.
I imagine
Yeah.
so. How long was it between I'm gonna do this to I did it?
A month.
Whoa.
Yeah. I like literally woke up one day. The next day I told my boss I'm quitting. And then like a month later I had sold everything and left.
Wow. Okay, so now I want to know where your favorite spot you ever surfed was at.
You know what? I love home. I love Santa Cruz.
Uh,
But it's not that it's the best wave in the world. It's more like it's home.
yeah.
So if you ask me now, I'd be like, I surf at a spot called Sewer Peak at Pleasure Point in Santa Cruz, and that's
Uh-huh.
my favorite spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when you did this journey, and you said you used the term surf bum, does that mean like you literally don't even like have a place where you're living?
Yeah, no place where I'm living, no job, no money. Like, I
Oh,
mean, I had
wow.
savings,
Yeah, of course.
because I had a high paying job. Like, as I said, I was successful early. So I saved a lot of money because I didn't have any,
Yeah.
anywhere to spend it, I guess. I didn't own a house at the time or anything. Um, a lot. I'm saying like 30K, like to last me for whatever,
Uh,
everywhere. It's not a lot of money,
no.
it's to live off of for a year.
Yeah.
But the countries, I go is Indonesia is very cheap. You can spend $5 a day and sleep and eat on someone's floor and eat rice and fish, like so
Yeah.
it wasn't. And I found jobs like washing dishes at resorts or whatever, surf guiding, things like that.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, I forgot what the
interesting.
question was.
Well, I'm kind of just going in my
Yeah.
own like world here when I'm listening. So, then it makes me think when you decided that, or how you even got on the team and how you became a professional in surfing, how soon after going on this surf bum
Oh, that
commitment.
was like 10 years later. It's surfing has been the longest journey, the most rewarding journey in my life.
Wow.
And it has changed a lot for me because, I mean, and most listeners are not surfers, so that may not make sense. But basically, my focus was big wave surfing.
Okay.
So my progress in surfing was to surf bigger and bigger waves.
Mm.
And in competition, you usually surf the opposite. So small waves and
Hmm.
to try to do tricks on the waves, whereas big waves, you don't want to be doing tricks. Otherwise, you're gonna get, like crashed.
Okay. Yeah,
You
that
just
makes
want to
sense.
surf, So my kind of like progress for me in my mind, I was a completely amateur surfer, no interest in competing ever, was big wave surfing. And I did this. I moved back to California after, a long journey in life where I moved to many places and got many jobs. And eventually I ended up back where I wanted to be because I started in San Francisco, ended up in Santa Cruz, I guess,
Uh-huh.
which is an hour south, so it's fine. um so I was surfing like bigger and bigger waves, and then I went out to surf Mavericks, if you know what that is, like the really big wave spot where like you see these huge pictures, like
Oh, okay, okay, got it.
so I was like, okay, I'm like done,
Yeah.
and then I moved back to Greece. And no, like I was in El Salvador for like 5 months a couple years ago, surfing, just like for free, and they had the world championship in El Salvador concurrently to when I was there. And I knew nothing about it because I never cared about competing. Surfing was also not in the Olympics
Huh.
until like last time in Tokyo. That's the first time that surfing was in the Olympics. So nobody actually cared about, national. I mean, they did, but not so much as now.
Yeah.
So it's a very new thing. So it was in El Salvador, the World Games were happening, and I was like, oh, does Greece have a team? And I didn't see anybody from Greece. And I'm like, how come Greece doesn't have a team? So I went back to Greece this summer because I go every summer to visit my parents and my friends. And I went to like a surfing place, island, where I was asking people, like, do you guys know if there is a Greek team? So they put me in touch with the president of the surfing association, and I started talking to them, and they're like, yeah, we have a team, but there are no women in the team. I'm like, why are there no women in the team? So it became my goal to like have equality in some sense between men and women for my country. So I was the first woman in the Greek team because I wanted this to be a possibility. We had to go through like the formal process and become
Yeah.
members and all of that. So I wanted to open I got on the team to open the possibility for women from Greece to compete in the Olympics, not for me to compete in the Olympics. It was like a completely like, I was like, I do big waves. I don't care about this.
Yeah.
The waves you surf in competition completely suck. Like I would not surf them if I had it at home and I had nothing else to do. I would not surf those waves most of the time. They're so
Yeah.
bad most of the time.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, but at least I'll be there. There's gonna be an opening. People can come to me and be like, how do I get on the team? What do I need to do? And one day, like, we'll be in the Olympics, so we have the option. And then slowly, kind of like we went to 3 world championships with the team already. There's one girl in the team also, my friend Irini. So 2 women now are in the team
Awesome.
and we're really good friends. So it's really nice to travel together.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that became super fun. I'm like, oh, I want to keep doing this. And then like I still was like, okay, I'm just doing this to open up because nobody else can do it right now. And I'll do it until someone like a young soul comes and rips and like starts surfing and gets on the team. But nobody else could do that. So I'm like, I'll keep doing it until then. And this year on the World Championship, I honestly only found out because of a Greek newspaper. And they were like, oh, there were 2 spots from qualifying for the Olympics. And I'm like, holy shit, we can do this. So I was just like, it came to me completely as a surprise that this is even a possibility. But since it is a possibility, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big dream and it may never happen, but the things I'm going to learn in the process, I think are going to be invaluable. So I am acting as if I 100% will qualify for the 2028 Olympics. And if it doesn't happen, I'm fine with that, but for me, it's the journey that matters.
Wow, that's so inspiring. Like I can tell that passion and that commitment to the principle of it, right? Like you
Yeah.
want to have that space for women and you also want to get better, pursue it, and you're saying I value the process. So whatever
Yeah.
happens is okay because I know I'm going to learn something through this. Now, what does it take to actually like get those 2 points?
I mean, so the way it works is like with rounds. So you have a heat with 4 surfers and the top 2 pass the next round.
Mm.
And then the ones that passed get matched and the top 2 pass the next round. So it's a matter of like passing 2 more rounds.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
And how
think
many
it's
rounds
gonna
are
be very hard. They're like
like
11 or 12
oh,
or
so it's
like they're
limited.
bunched. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
not that far-fetched. It is very hard because like I'm not as good as most prof surfers that have no job, like people that grew up surfing and they're not
Mm.
from Greece. And like, of course, I'm not that level, but I feel like I can be good enough with the coaching because I love my surf coach. He's so nice and so good as a coach. He's like my Jamie for surfing.
Aw. Yeah.
Um, and he helps a lot to progress very fast. So I don't see why not. I don't want to put limitations on myself.
Right.
Because one in my position would be like, I will never do this. I will never be good enough. But I really don't see why not.
Yeah, the door's open.
The door's open. I'm just gonna make what the best that I can, and I can't control the rest. And this
That's
is all that I want is to do my best up to there.
wow. That's such a good lesson in life in general too. And it sounds like it almost parallels some of bodybuilding too, from the
Yeah.
earning the ability to go compete at nationals and then earning your pro card. And then the door is open where you can qualify for the Olympia
Yeah.
or you can start to prove yourself, write a letter, maybe get invited to the Arnold, etc. So does your passion or desire burn similarly in the potential with bodybuilding?
I feel like I haven't decided. I feel like I would be probably naive to think that the Olympics and the Olympia will happen at the same, not time, but same few years. At some point to qualify for the Olympia, I mean, I don't know if I ever could in any case, but I would feel like I would need to focus more like 100% at bodybuilding other than view it as cross training and just do it for fun. And at this stage, I'm not willing to compromise I mean, not to say that, for example, I may need to take performance enhancing drugs to be more successful in Olympia. I don't know, maybe not, but I can't do this, because the Olympics is a tested sport.
Right.
So you have to be 3 years clean, as the rules say. And that's one thing I wouldn't be able to do if Olympia was my goal. I don't know if it's necessary. It may not be. But other things is like maybe I need to train harder or spend more time at the gym, which I also cannot do at this stage. Maybe I cannot take these months off to go live on a boat and surf all the time if I want to qualify for the Olympia. I also am not willing to do that. So maybe one day, I don't know, but at this stage, I want to do it for fun and do my best and try to make the most out of it to achieve my surfing goals and have no other. The YouTube would be Road to the Olympics, not Road to the Olympia for
Yeah,
me.
I love it. That I'm so happy. Like, I love that we're talking about this and that you're here to share that story because I also know there are a lot of pros who they go pro and then they almost feel bad to say, well, my goal is not to actually go as far as I can as a professional in bodybuilding. They almost feel guilty for feeling that way. So I love that you're sharing passionately your commitment to your surfing career and your goals there. And obviously having fun in bodybuilding, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes, we can have, it's okay
Yeah,
to
it's so
just,
fun now. Yeah.
yeah,
And I
I
hate
love,
the amateur shows because you never know when you go on stage. So I
yeah.
literally told Jamie, I just want to be pro so I know what time to go on stage. I have no other goal, like that's all I want.
Oh my gosh, isn't that so true? I remember what
So
like my very
fun.
first show was in conjunction with the Bikini Pro show. And I was like, they got their own separate room over there.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So
like they're like celebrities. They get to have it and they didn't have to come to the venue until later. Like
yeah, it's like
that's
so good. Like you know
yeah.
when you get your makeup and like no wake up at 3 a.m. and it's just so good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a benefit. And let's talk a little bit more about your road to pro because I'm interested in hearing when you realized what a pro was and then what drove you aside from yes, knowing when you're going to step on stage. Like, was it just you were having fun and the natural progression was to go to nationals and then you just happened, or was it like, no, I'm
No,
gonna get the pro card?
no, actually, I'm almost embarrassed to admit, but I will anyway. I started bodybuilding knowing nothing.
Uh-huh.
And I did the regional show knowing nothing. I was like 6 months into like some local figure coach, like
Yeah.
not a coach you would ever hear that prepped me for my first show. She was really good, actually. Everything healthy, like no.
Yeah.
And I won the show, it's like my first show. I knew nothing, like my posing sucked. Like I had this pink bikini that like was twice as large as it needed to be. It was just like a mess. Anyway, I still won it because I had muscle. I used to do CrossFit competitions too as
Okay.
cross training for surfing. So I had a lot of muscle already. Like I've
Yeah.
been lifting heavy for 10, 15 years, very heavy. Like now I don't lift heavy anymore. It's like I was deadlifting 320 at like 110 pounds, like that kind of heavy.
That's impressive.
So I had a lot of muscle. Like I didn't need a lot to compete. And then I was like, oh shit, like I won. What now? I'm like, okay, we're going to nationals or something. I was like, what are nationals? Like I'm like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like I have no clue. Anyway, so and then for me, it's like I'm very competitive. So the
Uh-huh.
next thing was to become pro, but I did not know what that means. I didn't know that in pro shows you have a set time. I did not know anything. I was like, oh, I want to
That's
turn pro.
awesome.
That's what I want to do. And
Yeah.
I literally did not know what it means. I didn't follow any bodybuilders on Instagram because I
Really?
did not know. Like I
Yeah.
learned that bikini exists 2 years ago. I didn't
Yeah.
know anybody. I didn't listen to any podcast. I didn't know this world. It's just like a new world to me. And I actually got the idea to start bodybuilding because a CrossFit athlete that I admired did a bodybuilding show and I followed her on Instagram. And I was like, oh, since I stopped
Wow.
it with the pandemic, like there were no more competitions, but like maybe I should bodybuild. It was more like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
everything
amazing.
happened in 2 years for me. And I had no clue what anything meant. The only thing I knew is that I need to achieve the next step. So it was more like a badge of honor rather than anything else. And then I failed.
Yeah.
And
As
I
you do.
failed and I failed and I failed. And I was devastated. I'm like, okay, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll quit bodybuilding. Maybe this is not for me. But something inside me kept going. And I think it's all the other stuff I talked about. It's like, I'm gaining so much from this in the background that I'm not willing to stop. And the other thing that for me, bodybuilding, a lot of people like structure, but my life is a chaos. Like I buy tickets to Indonesia a day before I fly and I have to pack 4 boards. Like my life is chaotic. I don't see my husband for 2 months at a time. I leave at a moment's notice. I don't have plans. I cancel plans. I can't hold appointments because if the surf is good, I need to cancel my hair appointment. I'm not going to go to the hair salon.
Yeah.
I need, like, I've paid for appointments because I cancel them with 3 hours notice, like hundreds of dollars. I'm like, there's no way I'm missing these 2 hours of surfing. So my life is a complete chaos. And bodybuilding keeps me grounded. It's like I have something. Like I need to prep my food and go to the gym. And I do it at different times in the day, clearly. Maybe I do it 8 p.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever. But at least I know I'm gonna like do something that's the same. Because I was so all over the place for my whole life. Um, so that's kind of like kept me going, like all of these things, like it gave me some like clarity, just like, okay,
Mm.
I can do something that's the same every day and not feel like I'm like completely up in the air. So those reasons kept me going. And then yeah, so I didn't quit, but then I said I'm gonna quit or work with Jamie.
Yeah.
I kind of like followed her style and I was like, I think that style works for me. And they were like, oh no, Jamie only takes pros. I'm like, okay, then I'm gonna quit. And then
Which I don't even, I don't know if that's true, is it? I mean,
I
maybe
think
now it is,
now, yeah,
but
because that
prior
was
it
like
wasn't.
in the summer or like whatever it was, like the fall. I'm like, I have to work with her, otherwise I'm not. And I told them, I was like, every month, I was like, I need to work with Jamie, or I'm gonna quit bodybuilding. And then like after I don't know months, they're like, okay, fine, Jamie will like see you, So I insisted, and I'm like, I'm glad I did, that, and it
Yeah.
worked out. Yeah, but for me, just turning pro was just a badge of honor, I guess.
Mhm.
And now it was more like this time, and I think I knew I was gonna turn pro because of the way I felt. This time it was more like, this is fun. And I don't care what other people look. I never, before I was like, oh, she looks good and she looks good. I'm like, everybody looks good.
Yeah.
And I didn't like look at the people in front of me to be like, oh, who's gonna win? Who's like, am I better? Am I worse? I'm like, I really don't care. I'm here with my team. I'm having fun. Vanessa was there. So we're like hanging out, this is nice. And I was so calm and so collected. And like, I honestly, not that I didn't care, but I didn't care. I was like, whatever happens, happens. I did my best according to my constraints. And whatever happens, happens. And, so now I just want to have fun. So that changed a lot the last year.
I think that's so amazing. And to have that commitment to what I'm hearing a lot from you is the mentality is really important. And
Yeah.
obviously, I know this with the work that I do, but I mean, I'm seeing it in your journey that mentality of I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it the best I can. I'm going to know that I did the best that I could. Ultimately got you where you wanted to be, or it at least gave you lessons and insights that then eventually got you where you wanted to be. And you mentioned something that's just like standing out to me, which is sometimes you don't see your husband for 2 months at a time, and that your life is chaotic. You'll make that last minute decision, that last minute change. How do you maintain positive relationships with your family given all of
That
it? Have you ever been told that you can't heal your relationship with food unless you stop competing? Or do you feel like a lost cause because every time you've tried to heal your relationship with food, you're always met with the same challenges, judgment, shame, and guilt? But you're ready to get to that root of your relationship with food and really understand your habits and behaviors and make lasting changes that are going to drive you forward in your competition goals as well as your life. And of course, if you don't want to stop competing in this sport that you love, but you also don't want to continue down the rabbit hole that is setting you back in your life, emotions, and potential for success on stage, I want you to know that you can get through this. And no, you do not have to stop competing in order to do so. You truly deserve to have successful preps, productive improvement seasons, and peace of mind year round. Because when your head is full of thoughts of food, eating, or guilt, you cannot invest that energy into the goals you truly care about, which is a big reason why I launched the 5-week food relationship program and why it has been my most highly demanded program to help competitors like yourself make peace with food so they can pursue the sport they love for the long run without having to worry about sacrificing their mental health. If you want to learn more about this program and hear from others who have done it, then visit www.celestial.fit/foodfreedom. Scroll through that page, get some information, and if you're inspired and you are ready to take action on this, go ahead and apply to work with me, and I will be getting back to you within 24 to 48 hours to go over your application and discuss your concerns specifically to determine if and how I can support you. Again, that is at www.celestial.fit/foodfreedom.
Yeah, that's a hard one. So there, with my husband specifically, I don't have like, I have 2 chickens and my husband here, and my parents are in Greece. So that's my family.
I love that you have chickens, by the way.
I love my chickens. They're so cute. Yeah, there's like white one and a yellow one, and they're the cute. Like I love them so much. Anyway, I love my husband too. If this, like, I love the chickens and the husband. Anyway,
Well, see, it's because I didn't say I love that you have a husband too.
yeah,
We were
exactly.
talking about the chickens. Don't worry.
Anyway, but it's been rough for many reasons. It was rougher before than now. And I don't want to go in our relationship. We've been together for 12 years, married for 6. And I love him to death. Like I hope we're all together forever. Like I have no desire to ever not be together, but you never know what life brings, and so on and so forth. But our relationship has not been linear. It's been very up and down. And a lot of it was because I was a different person. I mean, some of it is because of my chaotic lifestyle. A lot of it is because I was a different person. Like I'm a very selfish person. You cannot not be selfish and do these things. You have to have your time. I spend a lot of time by myself and I love it. And I want to travel by myself, and I want to surf by myself, and I want to go to the gym by myself, and I don't want to talk to, I'm antisocial. Like I don't want to talk to anybody, sometimes for days, and I love my friends and I love everyone that's in my life. Sometimes I just don't want to talk.
Yeah.
At all. And that might last for a week, it's okay. And it's fine. But yeah, so I was a very different person, very selfish, and very set in my ways, in what I thought was right and wrong. And I feel like that kind of like clashed a lot with what he thought was right, because we're very different people. Like I think 2 people so different as me and him would never be together if my personality was not that what it is.
Yeah.
Because I see a problem and I'm like, okay. I mean, it wasn't always like that, but I think like I finally, with therapy and thinking and applying principles from bodybuilding and other things to myself, as I said before, is like, okay, what is up to me to do? How can I work the hardest possible to achieve this important thing to me? Because my husband is important to me. So, and I'm not perfect still, of course. But now when we have an argument, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm right, but am I really right? This is the first question I ask. And yes, maybe I get upset, but then I leave the room. And my first thought is not, oh, he did this or whatever. It's more like, he did this and I feel like it's wrong, but is it really wrong? Or am I coming from a place where I don't see where he's coming from? And so I take into account his personality and what he means. And a lot of the arguments have now, like, we don't really argue much, like anymore, because maybe if something starts, I ask this question, and then I'm like, I'm fully prepared to see where he's coming from, even if that's not what I would have done immediately, but I want to treat him as he comes from a place of love. And what he's expressing right now is more so his style rather than he doesn't love me or he doesn't care or something. It's like, everybody has their issues, I guess, and maybe he's upset at work or whatever it is. And what he's expressing, it used to be that my first reaction is like, he doesn't love me, or, he's mean or something. And now it's more like, what is going on in his brain? What is going on in his life that made him upset? Was it me? Was it something else? And he's taking out on me. Does he need space or time? So I feel like once I was able to do this, because I honestly feel not many relationships get to this point where partners do this. And if they do, it's hard to break them. So the relationships that get to this point from partners, even though we spend months apart, I feel like its value in the other stuff is so great that, the months that we spend apart are going to be like a small thing in the big picture.
Yeah.
That's what I think. So that being said, I do want to preface, he hates bodybuilding. So
Yeah, that's so interesting.
yeah, he absolutely hates. He used to, I mean, he still hates it, but he used to like absolutely hate it and like hate that I do it and like always like not make me feel bad about it, but kind of like always say something about it. And
Yeah.
so I almost had to hide, like if I'm tired, I can show it. If I have to pretend like I'm not hungry or, all of that. I felt like this. I don't know if he wanted me to do this or not. It's just like my reaction to it. And he doesn't come to my shows, like he doesn't want pictures from my shows. He doesn't want to be involved in this as much as possible.
Wow.
And I leave him out of this.
Yeah.
And I understand where he's coming from because the things that I hate about bodybuilding are the things that he thinks that all of bodybuilding is.
Oh, okay.
And I would hate it too, you know, like
I
if
see.
that's all it was. It was like some vain people trying to build as much muscle as possible or something, I think he has like still in his mind, like the guys pumping iron at the gym that want to look a certain, this kind of like this picture that, yeah, I would not be doing it either if it wasn't for everything else.
Wow.
So I
How do
see
you,
where he's coming from, but it's difficult for me because
yeah,
it is a big part of my life. And I feel like I mean, not so much now, but I felt like I had to hide it, even though
yeah,
it's not possible to hide it.
I
Like,
know. I'm like, how'd you do that?
yeah. So that was a bit rough. I don't know if it affected our relationship or not. I don't feel it does anymore. And I do want to say I appreciate the fact that he's also trying to hide his detest for it now. So like I think it's a big step for him to go from hating it to try to actually, because I do it now so much, to try to hide how much he hates it now. So it's no longer, yeah, he's not involved in it, but it's no longer like an issue really. So I think we both came a long way in this.
Interesting. When you felt like you had to hide it, did that mean you guys were like maybe eating less meals together, or was that
No,
even?
I mean, I felt like I had to hide it, but it's not that I did hide it because you can't hide. We live together, like we eat
Yeah.
dinners together. So it was the same. It was just like maybe sometimes like I had no energy to do anything, but it's like, you want to go on a bike ride? I was like, sure, yeah, let's go on a bike. So
Yeah.
it was more like I wouldn't show how hard it was for me, and I wouldn't ask for that support
Yeah.
because I know that it would be a issue, like a sticking point. So I try to pretend to be as normal as possible. I mean, it's not normal, and you cannot pretend at some point unless you move somewhere else and like eat by yourself for like the prep. But as much as I could.
For
And now
sure.
it's less of an issue because I'm also not that tired. So
Yeah.
now it's easier.
Yeah, much better approach. And I think there's probably others who are listening to this who are like, yeah, my husband doesn't support this at all, and he always has something negative to say about it. Did you, I'm hearing your ability to not take things personally has shifted a lot. So you went
Yeah.
from, oh, he's being mean to me, he doesn't love me, to what's his perspective. So how did you get to that mindset where you could consistently consider his perspective so that you weren't likely to take it personally or see it as an attack on you?
So we had like a really rough patch during COVID, like everybody. because I was gone for like 6 months or something. Like I literally went surfing, I was like on a boat somewhere,
Mhm.
and did not take him into account at all. And COVID was a hard time because he also didn't have friends to socialize with. Nobody was socializing. So he was at home. I was gone. Anyway, we went through a very rough patch, and I take full responsibility for that because I was also confused, and I wasn't grounded in any way. I was like insecure about myself, I was selfish. Like I wasn't a good person. I mean, not that I wasn't a good person. I just like it was
You weren't
not
who you wanted to be
what
when you.
who I wanted to be. And then I was like, we had like a really rough patch, and it kind of woke me up. And I was like, okay, I need to make this better. And how do I make this better? Like with everything, it depends on me. I cannot expect him to make it better because this is my fault. So that was like the catalyst, I guess. Um, And then, like, I tried therapy. I still talk once a month to someone to keep me grounded. And honestly, like, there's like this account on Instagram that I follow, the holistic psychologist.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
And she posts very insightful bullet points. So, my friend of mine told me about her, and then I started reading, and I'm like, this makes sense. So, basically, honestly, my therapist and her
I love
helped
that.
me get a different perspective because I trust the experts, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm a professor in math. If my students don't trust what I teach them, like who will they trust?
Yeah.
So in matters of the soul, whatever you call it, I trust the experts, not myself. So like I trusted the experts. I trust my surf coach for surfing and Jamie for bodybuilding. Similarly, I trusted what they said to be true, and I think a lot about things because that's my job, like my job is to think. I literally sit
Yeah.
on a whiteboard. Like my job is to sit in front of a whiteboard and think.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, my day job. Um, anyway, so I thought, and by thinking, things made sense. And like, this is what I did wrong. This is what I did right. This is what needs to happen for this to get better. So that was the solution I found. And then I really realized it depends on me. I
Mhm.
mean, not everything depends on me, but whatever doesn't depend on me, if he had some issues that cross my boundaries, then that wouldn't work, clearly. But I have not found issues that cross my boundaries in a way that, this wouldn't work. So the rest depends on me. So I like having boundaries, but I also like being responsible for my relationships.
Definitely. I think that personal responsibility is so key to getting through life in general because a lot of times we think, oh, well, it's all on them, or they should have known, or they should have done this, or, well, they said, but we forget to do the part where we look at
Yeah.
our role in it. And
And I
there's,
used to be the first. Like I used to,
yes,
it's
that's
them,
the easier way to
like
go. You don't have to look at yourself in the mirror if you do that.
yeah, it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror. It's similar to like looking yourself in the mirror in prep. I'm like, I'm not lean
Yeah,
enough. It's hard, it's like the same. I'm not good enough. No, nobody says, I mean, people say that, but it's hard to
right.
say that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
such a good,
basically I suck and this is where I start from in the most positive way. This is
yeah,
like my default. And then it's like, how do I get better? How do I not suck, basically?
such a good point. I feel like that's a constant evolution too. Like, I've done personal development work for years. And then as I go through different life experiences or relationships or things, I'm like, oh, this has now been revealed to me as an area that could use some TLC.
Yeah. And another thing that helped me in general to achieve these ideas, I guess, or this change of thing is like, I feel like, I mean, maybe that's irrelevant, but maybe it's not. I feel like I never fit in to what I was doing, and I always tried to fit in. Because, I was a mathematician, or like as a kid, I was a nerd, but I was doing sport and I was playing theater, so I had friends and I was social and I had boyfriends in middle school, but I was also a nerd. So I
Yeah.
didn't fit the stereotype, and I always tried to fit it
Mm-hmm.
one way or another. But I ended up choosing things to do that did not fit the stereotype from one or the other. Like I like to call myself, and that's like in quotes, not to imply I'm beautiful or not. It's just the beauty and the beast all in one,
Love
you
that.
know, because like we're glam up and then we're also like beast.
Yes.
So I feel like not caring if you fit in and not caring what other people think and just focusing on what you want and how to be yourself in every situation is like kind of like clears out a lot of things and you can focus on the more important things like your relationships or your goals
Mhm.
without worrying like how to do this, how to, even like I'm a professor at UCSC. I have students, I have people. I don't hide. I mean, I don't use a fake name bodybuilder, like
Yeah.
if they want to look me up, they look me up. It's just like, this is who I am. This is part of what I do. I'm never going to hide who I am again, because I feel that takes so much energy away from the important stuff.
You said to be yourself in all of it. So when you think about being yourself, what does that actually look like or mean to you, especially in those difficult times?
Well, I mean, I think like the one thing that I would say identifies who I am is that I do my best to achieve what I think is important.
Mm.
And whatever I think is important needs to be open and out there. So I'm not ashamed of what I do in any situation anymore, I guess. And I'm trying my best. So I think like this is who I identify with. Just try your best.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm really loving the perspectives that you're sharing, especially from the personal growth aspect, interpersonal relationships with yourself as well, the way that you're navigating your life and how you have all these amazing goals and commitments. So, what is next for you? Like, what's on your radar next? We know about your goal, of course, to qualify for the Olympics. What does the next, like, I know you said you're going to leave soon for like a 2 month
Yeah, I
boat
leave
trip.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Holy moly.
Well, I'm
That's so
going to Greece
awesome.
first, and then I'm leaving to Indonesia from there and back to Greece, where my husband is going to meet me too. And
Oh, in
Vanessa.
Greece?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I love to hear that. So that's next for you. And then after that, is it just, well, whatever presents itself?
No, Jamie and I have some shows picked out for
Oh, okay.
November. Yeah.
Awesome.
We're doing the Atlantic Coast Pro and the Japan Pro. Because I wanted to just go to Japan again, and Vanessa will come as well.
Good.
Vanessa is always there for me. Love
Love it.
you.
Aw.
So yeah, mostly I'm really excited about the Japan Pro in November. So yeah, after this break, I'm gonna pretty much start prep again, which I'm excited about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that show too looked incredible last year. I remember I was like blown away by the production, so I'm excited to see you take that stage.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. And then like who knows, I'll probably have to take another break because surf season is in the winter here.
Okay.
Maybe do shows again in like May, June. I actually like, I don't like doing a lot of shows back to back because I like having the break,
Hmm.
but I also like living lean
Yeah.
because of sports and stuff. Like lighter is better for surfing. So I like having them spaced out to kind of, I mean, not that I mean, I usually I'm 10 pounds up or down at any given time, it's like
Yeah.
deep off season versus prep because I'm so active. But yeah, I like keeping the same kind of weight, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome. Makes
Keeping
sense
it
given
light.
your needs and performance too.
Yeah, it'd be hard to do it heavy. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And especially with the type of training you're doing consistently. That's something I thought about too. Like when I go into improvement seasons, I try to remind myself, like, you're an athlete, you want to be able to be active and do things in your life without worrying about your body holding you back just because you want to grow or build. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice other activities.
Yeah. I mean, life goes on in prep
So,
or outside, and you need to live your life truthfully and happily otherwise. why are we doing anything, right?
That's so good. That's such a good word. Honestly, I was just about to ask you for your best advice. That might have been it. That was such good advice, but I'll ask you anyways. What is your best advice for somebody who's never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for somebody who's on their road to pro?
Right. So I have a few things that I think are important to keep in mind. And that applies to anybody that is an amateur or wants to go pro or competing for the first time, in terms of kind of like health and relationship with food. Because I see a lot of people in this industry, I guess, that are very fixated on food. And to be completely transparent, when I was 12 or something, I also had an eating disorder that I've been over it for a long time before I started bodybuilding and so on and so forth, because I was focusing on performance and all of that. But I get it. I get how this sport draws people from walks of life that had something to do with eating disorders, and is very dangerous in some sense if you're not doing it the right way. So I feel like my advice is that same success can be achieved with 100 different ways. The first thing is to find what works for you. Because, I was lean enough and ready for a show with 800 calories and hours of cardio on top of surf. I was also lean enough and got my pro card with 1400 calories doing macros. So I don't tend to eat, a lot of sugar or something like close to show, but I could, and I have, and it didn't compromise my success. I feel like some people are like, okay, chicken rice and asparagus, and that kind of be bad for your gut. Like I had gut problems when I was eating the same foods. I had hormone problems. So variety of foods is very important. Mm-hmm. And also, like, yes, you can be successful being flexible and living life like I don't want to say normal because I don't know what normal is, but living life like happily and comfortably and not feeling deprived. Like I have chocolate in my reverse, a square of chocolate with my cream of rice, or have ice cream if I want to, and I don't do it every day. I do it once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe twice a week in the off season. I don't overdo it. I don't have cravings, luckily. But I feel like being flexible and being comfortable being flexible is important. Missing a day at the gym because you're sick is being flexible, and that's important. Like listen to your body, all of that stuff. So my best advice would be try to optimize your health, because health is wealth, and that's all you're going to have for the rest of your life. And if you compromise your health early on, this could be the end, the beginning of the end. Failure is not the end. Failure is the beginning, as we said, but lack of health is the end. Mm-hmm. So flexibility, many ways to do the same thing. Don't look at others. Some people would like to eat unseasoned foods. I don't understand that, but I support, it's fine. If they like it, great. I like eating raw fish. Like some people don't, but do what you like and do it in the most comfortable way possible. Prep doesn't need to suck. Like, yes, it's going to be hard, but it really does not need to suck. And also be very mindful when you do the very personal choice of getting into taking drugs and stuff, because these can affect women's health in unreversible ways that are not reversible. So this would be my two best advices for amateurs, especially, and pros, I guess. Again, someone that wants to turn pro, I'd say just what I just told them. Do it for the right reasons. Do it for the journey. Do your best. Don't find shortcuts. Like just immerse yourself in the experience. Because okay, you turn pro and then what? Like, why is it any different? Like, it's competing, it's bodybuilding. Do it for the bodybuilding. You don't need to take any shortcuts. You'll turn pro and you'll do pro shows. Okay. Sure, there's a time thing that is better, but it's not that different. You're still competing. Take your time, build your muscle, eat your food, be comfortable, be healthy, most importantly. And then turn pro, do the pro shows, go to the Olympia, be as successful as you possibly can be, setting the right foundation.
All of that was so good and so important. And I really think that if someone's new to this or even been in it for a while, hearing that is a great reminder. It's a great insight into what to consider. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story and your passions and
Yeah.
everything and your growth. How can people connect with you and follow your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram as surf_snow_repeat because I also snowboard occasionally.
So,
I should change that at some point, but now it's been so long. So yeah, surf_snow_repeat. I guess, yeah, I don't have like a YouTube channel or anything, or you can come to one of my lectures at UC Santa Cruz.
that's awesome. That would be so cool
You
to
can look at
witness.
my website, my professional website at UC Santa Cruz online, my publication, whatever, my lecture times and stuff like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Or find
know,
me in the water. If you're in Santa Cruz, come
yeah,
surf.
she's probably out there.
Yeah.
I was grateful that you gave me this time today. I'm sure
Me
you're
too.
just itching to get out. So thank you for
But the
doing
waves are flat today, so it's okay.
perfect.
I
Good
scheduled it
call.
like when I looked
You
at the surf reports, like when can I schedule this in the morning?
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that it worked out for us. And I'm so happy you came on. And thank you again for your time. And everybody listening, I'm going to put that information on the show notes page. That's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you are listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening, scroll down to the category section. It's alphabetized. You'll be able to find not just the links to connect with us, but all the notes, the episode summary, and the bulleted list of topics we covered, as well as timestamps. So definitely check that out. Share it with your teammates, your friends, your family. Let them know what part stood out to you and tag us. Let us know that you listened and let us know what you thought about the episode. And we look forward to hearing from you guys and, of course, supporting you in your journeys as you listen. And thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, it means so much to me. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.